Hello and welcome to the Game Line, Wales Online's daily rugby debate show on Facebook Live. I'm Ben James and we're joined by a very special guest today. Former Ospreys coach and TV pundit Sean Holley joins us along with Andy Howe. So how you doing, Sean, first of all?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I had a little bit of flu, as most people have, you know, but getting over it and enjoying the Six Nations. Thanks, Ben, enjoying.
So you haven't had that virus, Sean, you know, the first person.
Well, I hope not. It's pretty serious, isn't it? But it's probably more like man flu, and which, as three know, is really severe.
It deserves a lot of sympathy. So what have you made of the Six Nations then, overall, with 3 rounds in?
I've been enjoying it, to be honest. I think it was always going to be quite an open tournament. I've been a little bit disappointed, obviously, last Saturday, you know, not to get the result. I thought as well as France played, we probably gifted them a few points. I've been disappointed in Ireland. My tip to win it. When they had 2 home games to start, I thought they'd get on a roll, and they won the 2, and then I thought they were poor against England. England had been alright, just getting better. Italy have disappointed, but it's made for games that you find difficult to predict. So I'm enjoying it and really looking forward to the last 2 rounds as well.
Yeah, what would you do for the selection-wise, Sean, for the Wales team to face England?
That's a good question, isn't it? We fielded the most capped side ever last Saturday, didn't we? And I think now the Six Nations, we could say, is probably gone. So I think it's a good opportunity, although it's England away in HQ, it's an opportunity to maybe look at a couple of players. We've got some injuries on the wing, so let's have a look at Lewis Rees-Zammit, I think. It'd be nice to see him. He wouldn't fear playing against English Premiership players. I'd probably give Ken a rest. You know, he's a real warrior for us and runs into walls, so maybe it's time to have a little look at a start for somebody like Ryan Elias. You know, I don't know if Elliot D is fit again. And maybe on the tighter, Dylan's gone well the last 2 games, but I like the look of Leon Brown. He's done well off the bench. I'd probably give Ross Moriarty another start and maybe bring Thomas Williams back to start at 9. I think Daniel has to play at 10. He's holding us together at the moment. And Nick Tompkins has done a few bad things, you know, some errors, but he's done a lot of good things as well. But does Owen Watkin come back into the reckoning, because he had a good game for the Ospreys against Ulster. Did okay last week against Leinster, so he's one for the future for me as well.
What about moving Tompkins to 12, where he's played quite a bit, and playing Watkin 13?
Could
that be something experiment looking forward? Hadley Pack's quite old.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think, to be fair, Hadley's gone well, isn't he? Because he came into the Six Nations not on a very good run of form. But again, it's about, what are we looking at? Are we looking at this Six Nations, the now, or are we looking ahead to the summer, or even further? We've got a tough autumn series as well, so blooding a few people, looking at a few other people in positions, and then certainly next Six Nations is something I would imagine Wayne Pivac would really like to target on the road to the next World Cup. So there's a lot of ifs and buts there, but you've got to put yourself in the coach's position as well. You know, he'll be desperate for a win now. We haven't been overly successful in Twickenham, have we? It's a big ask. England look to be gathering momentum, so he will be reluctant to make changes, but I think if we can give him some time.
In one sense, though, is the pressure off for Twickenham, because not many people expect Wales to go there and win, so maybe give him a licence to go there and perhaps try and play this pivot way?
I think the pressure would be off if we picked the same experienced side, and I think England would be favourites, wouldn't they? Oh, yeah. So in many respects, yes, you know, even more so. It's just whether he wants to blood the likes of Lewis Rees-Zammit, who's young, but I think if you're good enough, you're old enough. He's proved it in the Premiership. We now have multiple injuries in the back 3. He's in the squad. It's a perfect opportunity and a great excuse to play him. Liam Williams may play this weekend, so does he come back in? Probably yes, if he comes through the game okay. Game under his belt, has to, because we have so many injuries then. We don't know about George yet. So I think it's an opportunity to just tinker a little bit and have a little look.
Well, what have you made of sort of the evolutions that the Wales have made under Pivac? A lot of people saying there's many signs of progress. Other people are sort of picking out a few things. What have you seen?
I like what we're trying to do. I mean, we made, I think, nearly 3 times as many offloads as France last week. Yeah. You know, when you think of that, we forced a lot of missed tackles out of France. They missed something like 21 missed tackles. I can't remember, but we are trying to play a little bit more. I think we've got to evolve a little bit more close to the line. I think we went back to the pick and go, and there was some space, opportunities that we didn't take. And I think they'll be working hard on that. But certainly back down the field, we're seeing Tipperick used a lot more, which I like. I think he was used far too much in the line out under Warren. and he's a good ball player. The set pieces stand to function under John Humphreys, which I knew it always would, and that's then going to give the platform for them to play a little bit more. I think there's more to come from first phase from us. I think Stephen will be working hard on some plays to cut through. But the thing I've noticed is Alan Wynne is playing very wide. Yep. You know, so that shifts Ken and the wings, and Stephen's attacking philosophy shifts Ken, the hooker, into midfield a little bit more. Why is Alan Wynne out there? Well, crossfield kick option, and he's a big offloading play. Look at the offload to Dan Bigger for Thomas Williams' try in Ireland. That's what they're looking at. The unfortunate thing is if we get turned over, I don't know if you saw it last Saturday, we got turned over, Alan Wynne's on the wing and he's chasing Teddy Thomas back. So it's coming. We're not that clinical at the moment, but we've got to give them time to evolve this. It will take time.
I guess that's the thing with playing a different pod formation, which what Wales are doing. They're playing that sort of 1-3-2-2, aren't they, which Japan did at the World Cup. You then sort of, as forwards, you know, hitting breakdowns and getting that ruck speed is suddenly a different sort of task, isn't it, when you're playing sort of slightly different? It's
very hard for the front five because they tend to play under those systems in between the 15s, so they have a lot of work to do in those 15s, up and back, winning rucks. And of course the natural tendency of a 6 or certain Justin Tipuric when I played him was to clear those rucks and get there and follow the ball. So if they're in the wide channels, then, and Alan Wynne for his life has been hitting rucks and smashing people. He's now on the wing waving, so it's going to take a bit of time for them. I think the biggest shift has been in defence. I think there's obviously been one or two little bits of tinkering, which you'd understand with a new coach, and sides are finding a bit of space for us. I think from kicks is our biggest problem. We're tending to honeypot around that first ruck, and the backs are short of space in the wide channels. So France got there a few times, Ireland, even Italy on occasions in the first half.
Sean, why do British and Irish players suffer from white line fever when in the opposite 22?
Well, you'll have to ask the players, you know. The thing is, it's the shortest route, isn't it? When it's there, they think they can all score, but it's actually the easiest time to defend as well. I think England have showed how to do it. They latch on to the ball carrier. They have a ball carrier and one guy with him, and then two guys waiting, and they take the ball to them. So essentially you've got four guys propelling over. I always remember playing the French side, sides like Clermont. If you played them on a greasy day, people like Thomas Domingo, and I remember them, Ledesma, they would actually fall short of the line and drive them over the line on the floor, slide them over like a sled. So there are ways and means of doing that, but I think when you're a man down, like France were, and Fico goes to the scrum, there's clearly going to be space. So they've got to trust their backs. And
why do you think they see now on a pitch? Obviously from a stand it's easy, that you know, you've got the chessboard view and you can see things are shouting, oh, move it right. What was happening on the pitch?
Well, you could see Dan Bigger calling, couldn't you? You know, he's waving his arms, and you know, he desperately wanted the space. I think when you're a big, dynamic, powerful ball carrying forward who's training all the time, and the line's there, and you think, I'm going to get there. So I think it's just you know, those decisions, getting some clarity in training, which I'm 100% sure they'll be working on. That'll be part of John Humphreys' remit as well, to work that. And we used to call them, when I was coaching, complement plays. As soon as you saw your 10 on 10, it has to come, because it means we'll probably have an extra guy then to work something. And you know, England showed it again on the weekend, didn't they? They were very clinical, close to the line, couple of kicks through. There's space to be had and exploited, and that'll come, I'm pretty sure of it.
Sean, who's the smartest player you work with there, as in seeing things, thinking?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, I've been really lucky to work with All Blacks, Springboks, Lions, Grand Slam winners. Something like Justin Marshall, who when he came to the Ospreys, 80-odd, he was the most capped All Black scrum half, saw the game. A guy who could play cricket, tennis, squash, football, he could play all those sort of things and read a game really well. Maybe his legs couldn't cope with that. Dan Bigger reads the game particularly well. There's horses for courses, so somebody like Marty Holler in defence could read a situation almost before it happened. So technically, he was so good that those decisions then became, if he made those decisions really well, his ability and his the way he conditioned himself, he had shoulders that merged into his head like that, and you know, he was great at, and very clever at that. So yeah, I think those sort of... Gavin Henson is somebody who maybe the viewers would be surprised, was one of the most rugby intelligent people I ever worked with. He knew the game inside out, would tell players, again, would see pictures before they materialise, and that's why he was able to ghost through or show and go or put people in space. So I've been really lucky to work with lots of people like that. Another guy who was very clever was Jason Spice. Remember him?
Yeah.
You know, we signed him early on with Philo Tia, a little bit like our Viv Richards and Joel Garner, to use a cricket analogy. You know, they were two overseas guys who were big mates, 8 and 9, who read the game really well and made good decisions. And a lot of the young Welsh players learned from those fellas.
We've got a few questions coming in here from some of the viewers. My voice went as yours went. Steve Evans is asking, what does Sean make of Nick Tompkins? He seems to be splitting opinions. Of course, he's not the first young Wales international to throw an intercept to an Entomac at the stadium, is he?
Shane did all right, didn't he? Yeah. Yeah, I think he's trying a little bit too hard, that's all. So you can't fault the guy for that, you know. I mean, he showed his quality ball in hand, that's for sure. He's broken the line, he carried the ball a lot, he seems to be all over the field, you know. So I think once he gets a bit more structure and settles a little bit, we're going to see, you know, a real quality player. I mean, he certainly makes meters. He did on the weekend. He's difficult to bring down because he's not the biggest guy, you know, but he runs his weight. Probably some of his defensive decisions, for example, in Ireland, you know, again, just overzealous, over-chasing. You know, Lama got on his inside. Look, that probably is the speed of game, the difference of club rugby and international rugby. He'd do that for Saracens and put the winger away. International rugby is a bit quicker. The guy's a little bit more intelligent and reads it. And that's the end of that. So it's a learning curve for him. But we've got to be happy with what he's done. Nobody even thought that Nick Tompkins would be anywhere near our squad. He's left field in. He comes on the field for McNichol, boom, makes a turnover, makes a break, scores a try. And he's done okay on the weekend. So I think let's wait, give him some time and give him some game time, and we'll see a real good player.
Another question here from Martin Jones. Should we be worried by the defence? McNichol, for example, doesn't look confident in defence.
Well, I think McNichol doesn't look confident, much the same as George hasn't, because of those spacings that I talked about a bit earlier. You know, when you're left as a winger at that level of rugby against real quick guys with 15 metres to cover yourself, it's pretty disconcerting. So I think it's not in any individual player, it's more of a system. I think we're over-committing a little bit close to the ruck. So we need to get our spacings right, we need to make good decisions. I think there's times where opposition attacking down the short sides against us, which means some guys are holding a little bit too much on the short side, therefore we're not folding and got that width. So again, you know, it's a time issue. Byron's only just come in. With Sean Edwards, very clear instructions, very basic, flat out line speed. It seems to be, to me, that Byron's asking him to make a few more decisions, which is probably the next step up for Wales. And that's going to take a bit of time, but, you know, it's a baptism of fire, isn't it? You know, playing the Six Nations straight away.
Question here from Mark Coles. Is it time to pick a scrum half and stick with him? It is a bit revolving doors at the minute, isn't it?
There is a bit, and I think we've done that with Gareth Davies, haven't we? You know, we've done it. We've given him a run of games. Rhys Webb was taken out of the equation, so Gareth's had a good run and played really well for Wales. I think the question is more about Thomas Williams, I think, and he looks like one for the future for me. Rhys coming back is an interesting one. Going to Bath now, we'll get some game time. Will he come back in the reckoning, possibly for England? He's a good animal if he's playing to play against England. But you know, if we look into the future, it's going to be Thomas and Gareth, and then we've got a crop of young ones coming up behind. But the thing is, with nines, they're going to get good game time off the bench, aren't they? You know, so you know, I'm not too particularly worried about the 9 position.
Obviously, we talked off air before. There's a few contentious decisions that have gone against Wales, and maybe the coaches have made a habit of speaking about it in the media. What have you made? Obviously, there was the scrum in Ireland, the scrum on the weekend, and that deliberate knock-on decision. Have Wales maybe gone about it in the wrong way in flagging it up?
I didn't like all the stuff in the media last week. I think you're making a bit of a team talk for France. They certainly showed that when Demba Bamba's scrum went their way, didn't they? But there's no need to do that. I think what Humph was trying to do, he wasn't trying to single out anybody, he was just trying to talk to the officials about scrummaging square. Now, I coached 7 years with John Humphreys, brilliant coach, and his mantra has not changed. So, you know, he's very clear on what he wants. He's trying to get his guys to scrummage square within the laws and be the best scrummagers, and then the best scrum wins. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen in all teams, and you work with and speak to most tight heads, they want to go in that hole and attack the hooker because that's where they're comfortable, that's what they're brought up to do. They feel they're getting some purchase. It's up to our loose head then to keep him out, which is a very tough job. I think where Humphrey's coming from is that loose heads are getting penalised for taking the scrum in, and he will tell you that it's very difficult to do that if a tight head is scrummaging square. So the only reason the loose head's going to go in there is if he's following the tight head. The last scrum, the Demba Bamba one, it's a contentious one because you'd argue that they are fairly square. They split Rob Evans and Ken Owens.
Yep.
From my point of view, Olivon kicks out from the flank, which is going to ultimately push Demba Bamba in a little bit, and they end up, you know, square together, but square on an angle. Yeah. My issue is, Ben, that the referee should have just given the penalty try the scrum before. 2 resets, 2 penalties, yellow card, we're going forward, it's a penalty try. Then you don't have that last scrum situation. But I think he just wanted to get a dodge, and he did that, didn't he?
Because it split Will Rowland and Alan Wynne Jones completely, didn't it? You saw it.
Yeah.
And what about the flap down?
Oh, that's a penalty try on for me all day. And it's very clever by Williams. But you can see, you know, you just got to look at players' reactions. They know how to tackle. They know where their arms are. They know where the try line is on the touch line and the space. And he's disguised it. He's come and he's clearly gone that way, not that way. So you tackle like that, not like that. And just as the ball's knocked down, you can see him look as if to say, have I got away with it? And I think Josh Adams gets in there. I don't care how many French guys are coming across. The best finisher in the world at the moment is getting in that space, for my money. So, penalty try.
I think his quotes afterwards tell you, he said it, I think it was a 50-50.
Who said that?
Williams himself, he said 50-50.
Did he? Well, then what does that tell you?
If it goes for you, you're happy. If it goes against you.
Did you see Olivier, who was obviously talking to the ref, and when the ref said, we don't think it was deliberating about the scrum and all, and he had his hand behind his back and give the thumbs up to his teammates, and then did the old bench fist as well. Yes, yes. So I can see what he thought, really.
Rugby there's so much scrutiny now, right? But look, I've been a coach and I've coached any way you can to get slightly within or bend the laws to get an advantage. The 1% add up, and that proves that point. In a narrow game, the ifs and buts, you could go knockdown penalty try, the scrum issue, how many we give 2 penalties away, 6 easy points, the intercept. It's so close that you try and get an advantage, and it's tough on the officials as well. What I didn't like was Matt Carley said, Carl Dixon, the touch judge, said, as if to say, it's on you, son.
Yeah. And what about that scrum out in Ireland?
Yeah, well, he's a difficult customer, isn't he, Ty Furlong? But again, that's where Hump's comments come from, isn't it? Yeah. Just about scrummaging square. It's, like I say, I don't. If you look at it, and I used on TV on the weekend a lot of spider cam footage. So when we're watching it on normal or you're at the ground, you sort of see where they end up. When you look at the spider cam, there was a scrum earlier in the game where Humas, or whatever his name is, the tight head for France, was angled like that. So his hooker's like that, and he's like that. And you think, well, the scrum's supposed to go that way, not that way, you know? But it was I wouldn't say it was a meaningless scrum, but because it's not 5 metres out or 5 metres from your own line, it's like let's play on. But he's still doing the same things. And I think Furlong is one of those ones who goes on the edge.
What I noticed in the Italy-Scotland game, you had New Zealand ref, Ben O'Keefe, and he was allowing the scrums are going down, he's just saying play on.
Yeah, that's a difficult one as well, the interpretation. You know, if you're used to refereeing Super Rugby and Championship games, whereas up here, perhaps particularly this time of year, conditions and scrum is really important. I think scrum is... my PE teacher when I was in school was the late John Bevan. He was an outside half for Wales and the Lions, coached Wales, and he always used to say scrum is king. And the big thing of South Africa winning the World Cup for me was the scrum was back. You know, they dominated England, didn't they, in the scrum, and you thought, this is a massive part of the game. My only bugbear with scrums is that the clock ticks on resets and it eats up too much time. I've been banging that drum for ages. There's a guy up in the stand who starts and stops the clock. He's an official. Just stop the clock and start the clock. Otherwise it eats time.
I think most people would agree with you on that, you know.
Yeah. Just got some breaking news coming through. Actually, the Ospreys have just announced the signing of Matt Prothero.
He's in England. Isn't Matt Prothero?
He's the winger ex-outside half, and he was with, is he with Bristol now? He started off with Gloucester, didn't he? He's
right,
Bristol, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, they've signed it. All right. Oh, they've got him back. Oh, that's a good signing.
Is how live TV works? Yeah. So interesting one. That. Looking ahead then to Twickenham. What sort of threats do we see England possessing? I guess it's power game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is power game. And again, like you're a bit young, but Andy will tell you, England were always at their best pre-2003 when they just had a big pack and they smashed everybody with a big driving maul, big scrum, big ball carriers. You know, Dean Richards at 8. Yeah. And I don't see it any different. I've worked in England, I've played in England. They've got big men and lots of them. You know, I don't think they need to be too clever. They got a grade 10 and 12 who can do all of that and interplay and swap positions as we saw last week. Leave that to them, but then just get your biggest, best ball carrying, best set piece pack, and you're going to compete with anybody. And I think we saw a bit of that against Ireland. Relentless ball carriers, Laws at 6, Cruz is a big carrier, it told you, as we know. You got likes of Genge coming off the bench, and Sinclair, you know, they've got a lot of weapons there, you know, even Underhill and Curry, who do a lot of work. So I think we're going to see a relentless ball carrying. Of course, you add Tuolagi to that, who is like another forward carrying, bang, bang. It's going to be a long day, you know, and then that will push our gain line back and create those spaces out because we're going to have to commit a little bit more tighter. And then you got Johnny May, who's serious gas. I'm a bit worried, to be honest, because if they just stick to that very basic game plan, you know, it could be very effective for them. I think at times they try to be a little bit too clever. That game against New Zealand in the World Cup almost bit them in the backside, really, because they thought all of a sudden they were the barbars and they were the world's best. Yeah. But, you know, when it comes down to it, South Africa showed the game hasn't changed that much in that department. It's a physical, attritional game. It's about gain line, territory, possession, winning penalties, not giving any away, taking your points. And that basically is Cup Championship rugby. And I think if England did that to us next week, we're going to have to play a bit and cut them to score. We're going to have to score. We're going to have to score some points.
Because that reminds me of the first warm-up game before the World Cup at Twickenham. You know, England came out with a power game and took us by surprise. But the second half, we found a bit of gain line success with Hadley Parks and George North picking and going around rucks. But the early chances we had were from Anscombe and Liam Williams and the outside backs just looking for 2-3 offloads in a phase. Yeah. And on a few occasions, the last offload didn't stick. But that's how we found the most success against that defence. Yeah.
Our boys won't fear them.
Yeah.
You know, even though we haven't had a lot of success in Twickenham, they won't fear them, and they'll go and play their game. And you know what? We're not far away. Like I said about the offloads against France and the opportunities that we didn't take. Who's to say that we don't go bang and click? You know, and because one thing will happen in Twickenham if we stay in the game is the crowd will sort of quieten down. England will second guess. So unless they get on top of us and put us to bed, which they didn't do last year, if you remember, our boys know that we can score, we can come back, and I think, you know, they'll fear us a little bit. So I don't think there'll be any sort of trepidation in that respect. It's just whether we can start, hold, you know, keep hold of our possession, don't give penalties away, and stay in that game and grow into it. And as you just said, take our chances. But I think we will still start to see even more this offloading and an attempt to attack.
Who's going to win championship then, Sean?
I tipped Ireland because at the start, because they had 2 home games, and I believe momentum is really big, but they really disappointed me. I thought they were awful against England. So I'd like to think now with momentum France can do it. I think if Wales can't win it, I'd like France to win it, and I'd like them to win a Grand Slam.
That'd be good for rugby, wouldn't it?
I think it'd be great for rugby. I've been lucky to commentate on the last 2 under-20s World Cups and seen that France team evolve, win 2, and a lot of these players come in, and there's more to come, by the way.
Yeah.
So with the World Cup being in France next, it would be great to see them challenging at the top. So,
I think
like
as
that.
well, if you look at their age profile, last weekend their starting team, average age 24, Wales is nearly 29.
Yeah.
You know, and not many caps and all, yet they play with a lot of freedom and you know, confidence. And with a lot of position.
Yeah.
But then, is that a double-edged sword for Wales? Much was made about the 800-odd caps, but if you try and... That's 800 caps under Warren Gatland, and Wayne Pivac's trying to evolve a game plan. Maybe, is that always the best thing?
I think, if we're all honest, and we picked the team last Friday, we wouldn't have been far off from Wayne Pivac's team. You know, in terms of strength and depth of what we've got, there might have been 1 or 2 differences, but in the main, that's what we've got, isn't it? You know? And they've served us really, really well. I think the quandary for Wayne is like I said earlier, is it the now or is it the future? And you can understand coming in straight off the ramp into a Six Nations, him trying to get some wins with experience. I can totally understand that. He would have been gutted on the weekend because, let's face it, I think 3 home wins at the championship, really maybe 1 losing bonus point, we would have gone, we've evolved our game, we haven't done bad, we finished 2nd or 3rd, we can go to New Zealand, give it a good go. So I think we should give it, you know, we should step back a little bit and go, hang on now, we've had a massive period of Welsh rugby under Warren and Sean Edwards and Rob Holley. It's a new chapter, so it's going to take a bit of time.
Sean, let's lighten it up a bit.
Yeah.
Who's the funniest player you've ever worked with?
The funniest?
Yeah. Oh, funniest.
Oh, I work with some characters, I have.
Funniest journalist?
Not him.
What do you mean, John?
Well, the shoes on the other foot, you know. I remember, was it 2009, Munster in the quarter-final, I'd just taken over as head coach. Munster, mind, O'Callaghan, O'Connell, O'Gara, Stringer, they're all blinking there. 20,000 Thomond Park. It's not the easiest place to go, right?
It was a great weekend, by the way.
It was one for me. And Philo TT got yellow carded early on because it was a frustrating start to the game. We were supposed to kick the leather off the ball for the first 20 minutes and James Hook didn't kick the ball once, so Philo got frustrated, yellow carded. I think it was Keith Earl scored and the game was done. First question, so you're going to resign, Sean? Oh, cheers, Anne, thanks very much. So I've forgiven him now, but
I think that was the time I was chasing your chief executive around, Andrew Hall, afterwards. And I said,
pick on him.
Yeah, I asked him about his future. He did give me one line. I did manage to build a whole story out of it.
That's all I get.
Something's never changed.
I worked with some great characters. Mike Phillips was always a real character, good fun. You know, really self-confident and, you know, happy to take a mickey out of himself and others. Ian Evans is one of the funniest, very dry.
Good player as well.
Good, hard player, very dry, complimented Alan Wynne really, really well. Richard Hibbert, character, big on his conspiracy theories and hated flying, so that was a lot of fun. The boys would take a mick out of him flying until it was a bumpy ride and everybody else was, you know, worried about it. But I was really lucky, you know, we had a good blend and we had a good run in terms of success, but time. And I just feel coaches don't get a lot of time these days to build that rapport, to build that culture and camaraderie that you need. You know, Munster had that first under Declan Kidney. You know, you see Leinster now, you know, building. They give him Leo Cullen a shot and he's had, you know, success. So you need that time in, and what happens is you build strong bonds and relationships with your players because there's a lot of trust and mutual respect. So yeah, I got a lot of stories, but some I can't tell on you.
Pound for pound, who's the best player you coached?
I don't want to offend any of the boys, but pound for pound, it'd have to be Shane.
That's why I said pound for pound.
Yeah, it'd have to be Shane. And I could sit there and say I coached him for 10 years, but I didn't coach Shane. You know, you just let him go, really. You coach others around to try and read him and, you know, support lines, and you give Shane a little bit of free rein because he was amazing. You know, he'd break the line in difficult games for you. He'd score you a try in a blade of grass. And he's tough, really tough. Because can you imagine being Shane playing? Oh, you would have been 11.5 stone soaking wet. And everybody wanted to go out and kill him. So he had that to face as well. But I had the privilege of working with some amazing people. Modern day players playing now, Justin Tipuric was, you could see coming through, extremely talented, clever player, lovely fella. Alan Wynne, you knew straight away when you saw him. He was going to be something.
Nail this one down for us now. You know, I've written it many times in the past, and some of my colleagues have been on my case because I said
I
Justin
know
Tibbetts
what's
could
coming.
play in the centre or play
Yeah,
anywhere. Has he
yeah.
got those sort of skills?
Yeah, 100%. I refer you back to Wales beating England 30 points to 3. What he did in the wide channel to put Cuthbert in for his second try. You know, he's quick enough, reads defence very well, great athlete, excellent skills. He could easy. In fact, we would have picked a side sometimes 6-2 or 6-1 back in those days, where Justin would be able to cover on a yellow card or an injury in the backs. No issue. You're right, Dan.
What do you think of that, Ben?
That's the first time you've been right, Dan.
He's going to be walking around the office all day. You don't know what you've done. I think that is it for today's show. A massive thank you to Sean for coming in and spending time with us. As for this, we'll be back again, same time, same place tomorrow.